Hey guys, Kyle Kulinski is letting us post some of the clips from his channel that we think you guys will really love in the Breaking Points community on our channel.
Yep, let's get to it.
So Chris Wallace recently left Fox News, and I'm going to read you how he is torching the network now on the way out the door. So Chris Wallace was one example of a guy who they put out there to maintain some degree of credibility. He is one of the least partisan of the people on air, even though he still is partisan. He still is conservative, but he was put out there as like a counterpoint to the Sean Hannity types. And he's there for a long time. He always defended the network. He always thought they were doing a good job. He would always say, I remember a debate he had with Jon Stewart one time where he always said, look, we provide the counter narrative. We provide the counterbalance to the biased mainstream media. They're so liberal, and we're just providing the other perspective, the conservative perspective, and we're quote-unquote fair and balanced. He seemed to really buy that propaganda and believe that notion, even though it's absurd. Fox News has always been a cesspool. But now, since he's out the door, and he's launching a show, I think, on CNN Plus, which is CNN's streaming thing, which I think launches this week, and it's going to be an abysmal disaster. I'm so sad that the numbers aren't going to be released. The numbers are only internal, because the actual numbers are going to be pathetic. Although I'm afraid they'll find a way to rig the system and somehow end up beating other streaming services, so we'll wait and see what happens on that front. But look at what he says about Fox News. So this is in Mediaite. Chris Wallace says working at Fox News was, quote, unsustainable after 2020 election. I, quote, no longer felt comfortable with Fox News programming. Wow. Okay, so let me read you a little bit here. Wallace gave an interview to the New York Times to promote his nightly interview program, Who's Talking to Chris Wallace, which launches Tuesday, reflecting on his decision to leave Fox last year. Wallace explained, I just no longer felt comfortable with the programming at the network. I'm fine with opinion, conservative opinion, liberal opinion, he continued. But when people start to question the truth, who won the 2020 election, was January 6th an insurrection, I found that unsustainable. I spent a lot of 2021 looking to see if there was a different place for me to do my job. Wallace described the changes he observed in Fox News following the 2020 election. He also confirmed reports from several months ago that he complained to Fox News leadership about the conspiracy theories Tucker Carlson was spreading about the storming of the U.S. Capitol. Quote, before, I found it was an environment in which I could do my job and feel good about my involvement at Fox, Wallace said about his time with Fox. And since November of 2020, that just became unsustainable, increasingly unsustainable as time went on. So look, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of, Democratic-minded people and liberals who look at this and they applaud it and they say, he kind of took a moral stand here. He said the January 6th stuff goes too far. I'm out. I can't do it anymore. And on the one hand, I'm inclined to agree with that to a certain extent because he says this crosses a line and I was lenient with my line, et cetera, et cetera. But on the other hand, and this is the thought that dominates my mind more, this misguided at best notion that, well, before Fox News was good. To me, that is the most preposterous implication here because they've always been horrendous. When Chris Wallace was there, remember when Sean Hannity attacked Obama for eating a burger with mustard on it? He had a segment on that. Remember when they said Barack Obama did a, quote, terrorist fist jab with Michelle Obama? They said that on Fox News. How many times over and over did they lie about the nature of what was going on in D.C. between Democrats and Republicans, where Democrats would concede and give more and more and more to Republicans, and Republicans would still be obstructionists during the Obama era, and they would go out there on Fox News and pretend like it's the Democrats who are unreasonable and not bipartisan and not willing to compromise and are extremists, when obviously it was the Republicans who were being extremist. I mean, for Christ's sake, Democrats had a supermajority and they passed a Republican health care plan. That's what Obamacare was, an individual mandate system. It's like Romney Care in Massachusetts. It's an idea that was birthed at the Heritage Foundation, which is a right-wing think tank. You would have no idea. You would have thought it was like Che Guevara was coming over to take over our health care, nationalize the entire thing. That's how they acted on Fox News. And they would say the things about they're going to kill your grandma and stuff like that. This is what they were saying when Chris Wallace was there. And Chris Wallace had no objection whatsoever to any of that. Fox News is the network. Now, I don't know if Chris Wallace was there all the way back then, but Fox News was the network that wrongly called the 2000 election for George W. Bush before we knew it. And then every other network followed suit and ran with it. And that very well could have impacted the outcome because after the full recount of Florida, we found Al Gore actually won it. So they have been biased every single step of the way. They have been rigidly, ruthlessly, viciously partisan every single step of the way. And Chris Wallace was like, well, they were a great network and they were fair and balanced until the January 6th stuff. Now, does the January 6th stuff cross the line? Of course it does. Of course it does. The idea that, like, you know, hey, maybe it's okay that they stormed the Capitol and there was a riot and windows were broken and there were threats and there was an attempt by a group of losers to try to overthrow the government. Maybe it's okay that Trump gave a speech saying, let's go to the Capitol, and maybe that's our... No. That stuff is all wrong and bad and crosses the line, but so did the other stuff. And, you know, that's the thing that annoys me the most, that I feel like the moral meter of DC journalists always misfires. Like, they never get their outrage, they never calibrate their outrage properly. Like, they're not outraged about 30 million people not having health care, about 80% of the country living paycheck to paycheck, 45,000 people dying every year because they don't have health care. They're not outraged about all that. They're not outraged about the endless wars. They're not outraged about the arming of the Azov battalion, the neo-Nazis, or the arming of jihadists in Syria. They don't. It's always like little things here and there that they say, well, that crosses a line, when there's 84 things before it that cross a line, and they were sitting there cheering it on or actively promoting the lies. And so that's what frustrates me about this thing. And my guess is, of course, Chris Wallace is going to be fully rehabilitated. He's going to be welcomed with open arms into Democratic-aligned liberal media. And it's like, the bar for them is so fucking low. All you have to do is say, January 6th was bad and I don't like Trump. And they're like, yes, welcome. We know you love torture and illegal wars and a government that keeps people in poverty, but you're still okay with us because you cleared the lowest bar in human history. Now, to be fair, I don't know if Chris Wallace supports torture, or he probably does support illegal wars, but torture, I don't know. But point is, he ain't a hero. And really what he's doing is now launching a show on a streaming platform that will have roughly -5 viewers. I mean, again, this thing, CNN Plus, it's going to crash and burn spectacularly. Now, they might find a way to rig the system and beef up their numbers through coercive means. That's certainly possible. That's certainly what the big networks did on YouTube with the algorithm. But in a fair fight, they would get obliterated. I mean, what do you have? A book club with Jake Tapper? A show on raising kids with Anderson Cooper? Like, Casey Hunt has a show. Like, she has negative charisma. And never mind, it's not like she doesn't have charisma, but she makes great points. She doesn't make great points. So the whole thing is just a cesspool. It's just, let's take all of our shitty programming that nobody likes on CNN and just now put it on the streaming platform that nobody will like or care about or buy. And then we won't release the numbers, and we'll find a way to rig it so that people end up watching it in a roundabout way. All right. Congrats. Congrats, Chris Wallace. I almost called him George Wallace. Congrats, Chris Wallace, for finally finding something that you had a moral objection to when there were like 80,000 things beforehand that you let slide or actively partook in the negative stuff.
Hey guys, we're going to be totally upfront with you. This is the most perilous time that we have ever operated in.
It is so difficult just to try to sort through the news, but even more importantly, to bring you accurate information as this wave of lockdown and censorship spreads across the nation.
Yeah, look, if you can become a premium subscriber today at breakingpoints.com, you're going to help us build out a vibrant, independent media ecosystem, which is free of mainstream pressure. We can't tell you how important that is at a time like this.
Yep, that's right. Go to breakingpoints.com to subscribe. We love you guys, and we appreciate you so much.